Hey, it's me, that recipe you keep wanting to make in quarantine. I know that I might seem very daunting, but I believe in your ability to cook/bake me, and you know what'll help you? If while you're doing so, you listen to an episode of this podcast. Before we continue my first ever journey through the Harry Potter series, just a few quick announcements. First, we're taking a little bit of a break before we do our next Potterless donation duel, but if you want to still support a good cause in a Potterless fashion, you can do so because Potterless listener and the artist for Meddling Adults, Mayan Atias, has an Etsy store where she makes custom jewelry, and she has made a line of Wizard-on jewelry from earrings to necklaces to bracelets, and all of the proceeds from these sales are going to HIV/AIDS research. So if you want to see this jewelry and think about getting it and raising money for charity along the way, just go to Potterless on Twitter or Instagram. I posted about it on both of those accounts. And thanks, Mayan, for putting this together. And I'm also very excited to announce that almost every single episode of Potterless now has a transcript up on our website. If you go to the individual episode pages at potterlesspodcast.com, the transcript will be there under the little MP3 player. And I just wanted to thank Kelly for hunkering down and putting a bunch of those on the website, as well as Kritzia, our transcriptor, for putting all of those together. So this is long overdue, but I'm very excited for the podcast to be more accessible. And finally, of course, we have a bunch of new patrons to welcome to the team, so I wanted to thank all of them. So shout out to Jerry Mitchell, Chloe Laverson, Mackenzie Donnelly, Malen Eliason, Annabelle Bielenberg, Broadway Nerd, Jennifer Spencer, Olivia and Corey Patterson, Laura Libera, Hermione, Kristen English, Gabby W, Nicole Abbey, Lisa19115, Leia Schmidt, Sophie Wachter, and the return of Ashley Lynn. Shout out to Wendy and Kylie Sears, who upgraded their pledge, and a huge shout out to our new producer level patrons Gregory Hughes, Krista Lee, and Holly Moran. They joined the ranks of Vicky, Aaron, Clown, Machismo, Samantha, Juan, Rosemary, Maria, Romina, Audra, Eleanor, Nikita, Ali, Amelia, Sarah, Ben, Rachel, Zachary, Orchid, Vivian, Haley, Alex, John, Noel, Liz, Brandon, Claire, Rory, Veronica, Lotta, Noah, Tracy, Colleen, Jennifer, Friday, Summer, Justin, Jacob, Maya, Mark, Polly, Zena, Harlan, Noelia, Addie, Nikki, Kine, Amanda, Alicia, Kafir, Sarah, Marta, Eileen, Keegan, Mr. Folk, Maya, Floor, Siri, Georgia, Skyla, Edel, Professor Threat, Ellie, Elizabeth, Michael, Kelly, Carrie, Connie, Jen, Nedry, Will, Samantha, Aurora, Marcos, Courtney, Marique, Ashton, Brittany, Phelan, the Meadows family, Jenny, McKenna, Heather, Brad, Thomas, Brianna, Kevin, Lori, Chrissy, Jarl, Ashley, Peta, Sophie, Jen, and Callahan, Leah, Melissa, Bella, Melanie, Elizabeth, Britt, Becca, Reese, Adam, Joseph, Lily's mom, Tyrone Money, Madison, Kyle, Tonks, GK, Sabrina, Sophia, Farzan, Melanie, David, Matt, Okama, Hime, Yimki, Bony, Pony, Jacob, Kelsey, Taco, Bluefish, Rike, Taylor, Rochelle, Megan, Alicia, Riley, Colleen, Laurel, Rossanne, Erica, Miranda, Landon, Kendra, Natanya, Yogan, Darcy, Richard, Sandra, Craig, Andren K, Steve, Leor, Angela, Julia, Demi, Kelsey, Michael, Danae, Michelle, Callista, Kringle, Lovekesh, Jennifer, Crystal, Henrika, Jeremy, Delkis, Katrina, Jerica, Michelle, Casey, Megan, 1000, Sat, Serenity, Jack, Sophia, Matthew, Dane, Rochelle, Kirsty, Robin, Chick, Mermaid, Aaron, Biatch, Ilaria, Liam, Lori, Steamed Nuggets, and Carrot Eye Potter, who never click on the wrong space when they're playing Settlers of Catan online, making a very silly move by accident. If you want to be like one of these amazing patrons and get access to bonus episodes, director's commentary, exclusive live streams, and more, you can head on over to patreon.com/Potterless. But without further ado, let's get into episode 132 of Potterless, covering the second part of Act 1 of a Harry Potter sequel, guest starring Tessa Netting. Hello, Internet, and welcome back to another episode of Potterless, the tale of a grown man who never read the Harry Potter series as a kid. He got to it later on, and now he's doing some other stuff that's beyond the canon world. My name is Mike Schubert. I'm that grown man, and I'm here today, joined again by Harry Potter YouTuber, podcaster, wonderful human being, Tessa Netting. Tessa, how's it going?
Hello! I am excited to be back on this podcast talking about the ridiculousness of the Harry Potter musicals, specifically the sequel.
Yes, it's been literal minutes since we've talked about it last.
Yes, it has.
In the real world, people have waited a week, but we've waited just as long as it took me to refill my glass of water.
Magic.
But now we have more of Act 1 to discuss. Yes, the magic of podcasting. So we're going to be covering the rest of Act 1 in today's episode, and it starts right off the bat with your boy Snape talking about Hogsmeade with a line that I thought was hilarious, which is, students without permission slips will be killed. No, you just can't go, but it'll be a whole lot of fun.
Oh my gosh, that was a good Snape. Can I hear your Snape?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I gotta say.
I can't do it at all.
It's like he's a prim and proper fancy boy.
Yes.
Where he's like, students without permission slips will be killed.
Oh!
No, you just can't go. But it'll be a whole lot of fun.
Can you say that's absurd?
That's absurd.
Yes!
And you can't see it, but I have gritted teeth the entire time.
You have to.
Because I think the key is that you don't actually open your mouth.
Yep. It's a very specific facial.
Talking.
Yep. Oh my gosh. So I have an amazing story right off the bat about Alan Rickman.
Oh, yes.
And it's about, that's absurd. Okay. So I watched Alan Rickman on Broadway. He was in some sort of play. I can't remember the play, but
Spider-Man fighting.
Oh my God. No, he was not in Spider-Man. But he was in some incredible play. I can't remember the name of it. So after I went out to the stage door because obviously I just wanted to talk to him. I didn't even want to like get an autograph. I just wanted to see him and talk to him. I was also just like, you know, this little child. I was annoying. I was on Broadway, so I just had like all of the courage in the world. There was nothing holding me back from talking to Alan Rickman. Looking back, I'm like cringing at myself, but I couldn't help it. So I saw him and I just like, I'm this little tiny little thing and I go up and I'm like, hello. And he looks over at me and he goes, hello. and I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, your voice is just amazing. And he looks at me and he goes, I was born with it. And then I go, can you say that's absurd? And he looks at me because it was right around when I had just watched like this for the first time. And he looks at me and he smiles and he winks and he goes, no.
So he saw it.
That I don't know. I have no idea if he knew what I was talking about, but he winked at me and he like smiled at me and he was like so amused and it made my entire life. Like literally him being like, I was born with it. And just like,
that's so funny.
It was the best. Like again, talk about an incredible person that I am just, so I just had to mention that because when thinking about That's Absurd, I just think about that beautiful Alan Rickman interaction that I was the most annoying person in the world and he was just so nice to me. Like the fact that these people can just be such nice and incredible people. All of the actors that I have met from Harry Potter, just the nicest people ever.
Yes. They're all incredibly nice. I don't know how they did it. And I love that he says I was born with it because I have a deep voice and I am glad that people think it sounds nice. And it's strange when people say, oh, you have such a nice voice, because it's not like I sang and actually worked on it. I've done nothing. I did literally nothing except be born to have this voice. So yeah, usually when people tell me, oh, you have such a nice voice, I go, thank you. I've worked very hard on it.
You're like, thank you.
I hope people know I'm kidding when I say that because I've done literally nothing. But I'm glad that now it has come to use because early in my life, I was just a kid with a deep voice. So when telemarketers would call the landline, people would think that I was my mother because it would be like, oh.
No way.
Yeah, because it was like my voice is deep enough where I didn't sound like a kid, but not deep enough to be the dad. So there would always be a pause and then they'd be like, Mrs. Schubert? And then I have to be like, nope. Then I had a run in high school where my friends' moms would be like, you should work in radio. And I would say, I don't want to be a disc jockey, Mrs. Thompson. Because I don't know. I don't have a desire for that. So who would have known that after being an engineer for my real job, then I would become a professional talker? Here I am.
See, it was meant to be. And you can just say when people ask you, just say, I was born with it. That's what Alan Rickman said.
I can do it in honor of Alan Rickman.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, I love this for you.
I always felt so bad about the deep voice because, like, I can't sing at all. Like, not at all.
But
not
dude,
even close.
you have a great voice. My voice is annoying as hell. Are you kidding me? I had a chipmunk voice growing up. It was unbearable. My poor mother. It's like, I'd much rather have it be the other way.
I always felt bad because I had this voice and everyone's like, I bet you're a really good bass singer. And then it would make me feel bad. Like, oh, I probably should have learned how to do that.
You're like, dang it.
But I never did. Missed opportunity.
That's okay. Now it's being used. It's being used in the best way.
I hope all of my friends' moms who told me to be in radio know that I'm in podcasting. So then they can ask me, what's podcasting? And I'll be like, it's kind of like radio, but you download it. Anyway, Harry Potter.
Anyway,
so you've got some more Malfoy potty jokes. They just keep on coming.
Yep.
And then we have Umbridge checking the permission slips. And there is a very funny line here where Harry comes up. He does not have his permission slip. And Umbridge doesn't let him go. And then mockingly goes, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was in the presence of royalty. But Harry doesn't get it and just goes, it's okay. Which is The crowd did not laugh enough. That line was fucking hilarious. And I am so upset at the audience for not losing their shit over it. It was so good.
It was. It's just simple. The simpleness of it is just great.
So then something happened with Umbridge that confused me, and then I thought about it more, and then I realized it was 2010, is that the way in which Umbridge talks was a little bit like the my Gerd meme.
Yes.
And then the way they laugh also is like a dirt, which was similar to those... the meme, like, what are they even called? I forget what they're called, where there's like the colors in the background, and there was like Philosophy Raptor and the kid with the fist, and they have like the diagonal lines of all the different colors, like whatever those memes are, things that just dominated r/funny forever.
The OG memes. Yeah.
Hey, it's Editing Mike. Just wanted to pop in real quick to say that what Past Mike was trying to remember the name of was Advice Animals. Ah, yes, the memes of old. Anyway, back to the podcast. It just felt like that is what shaped the character of Umbridge. Or at least the voice and stuff.
I don't know too much about Umbridge. You'd have to ask Joe Walker, like, where he kind of got that from. But it is very much that sort of vibe. So I understand why you would think that. Because it is very much like a dur. It's like that kind of 2010.
Yeah. Ermagerd, YouTube.
Yeah.
Lots of things in 2010 not cool anymore.
I'm glad that we've learned, though. Hey, at least we're like progressing.
Right. It's very true. And that's why I think it's important to do this. Is we still have elements of a Harry Potter musical and a Harry Potter sequel, but we're not going to shy away from the fact that some things are big yikes moments.
Yeah, big yikes, big uncomfortable, big like watching back, being like, nah, don't like that.
So Draco and Harry are left behind. Harry then leaves, and it's just Draco writing a letter to Lucius in crayon, wondering where the permission slip is, and then lying about Hogwarts actually going really well. And I did appreciate that Lauren Lopez does not actually draw words. It's just big scribble shapes like she's a 3-year-old.
Oh, it makes me feel so bad for Draco. I can't. That's what I mean. This musical makes me feel so bad for the characters.
Yes, this is the kind of dark humor that I could stomach a little bit more because it's less gross. I think why I like this joke better than the Hermione one is that calling Hermione ugly and fat and all that kind of stuff feels rooted in misogyny.
Right.
Whereas Draco having this father that over the top doesn't like him feels less rooted in reality. So it's easier for me to laugh at it. Yes, there are still people who are bad parents out there that don't care about their children, but I feel like misogyny is much more prevalent and was part of quote unquote funny jokes for a long time. So I think this one stomachs a little better, but yeah, I get it. It is sad.
Yeah. And actually the misogyny like tones down in senior year.
Yay!
So that's one thing that, yes, they're nicer to Hermione. So it will happen.
Good.
Yeah. Because again, they're looking back and being like, oh, crap. We treated Hermione like shit. Like, oh, it's like, we don't like that we did that. And that's like, I think that's a big reason why Star Kid hasn't put on the musicals again. Because a lot of people are like, why don't you just do it? Well, I mean, other than the fact that it's like, you know, property that doesn't belong to them. But still, they don't feel comfortable doing these jokes because a lot of them are jokes that played in 2010, but now it's like we don't want to say these jokes.
Yeah, and a lot of artists come to that realization and stop doing it. Paramore doesn't sing Misery Business anymore because it's a song about woman hating. And yes, that song slaps harder than almost anything in the world, but they realized it's not great and hasn't aged well and they stopped singing it.
Yeah.
So Lupin comes in and gives Harry the Marauders map.
Yes.
And after this happens, Snape comes in and goes, "Hey, Lupin, want to come look at the full moon with me? Haha, zombie."
So throughout the musical, they just keep referencing Lupin like these random mythical creatures. Like they call him a zombie.
It's
and
so
it's so
funny. It's so funny.
It's great. Like, and they didn't know like what they would say. They would just say whatever sort of like thing was in their head.
Oh, that's even better.
Yeah.
That's even better.
So one thing I wanted to mention is that like some of the lines were improvised, but many of these lines weren't improvised at all. Like they were really specific. Just like the beats and how they were playing the characters was sort of like the actors' like interpretation. But a lot of because people ask like, is it improvised? Is it not improvised? Like most of it isn't improvised, but there are little things like here and there that they would sort of like tuck in and see if it would be funny. And I'm sure that they tried things out, and then on the day of recording, they're like, okay, this is what we're doing.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense for sure. So Lupin then warns Harry of the Shrieking Shack, says, stay out of there. I'm a werewolf in there. And Harry's like, what? And that's the end of that. So the kids go to Hogsmeade. Umbridge is alone. And then Dumbledore enters.
Yes.
And then there's the letter, and it's from Big D, and Dumbledore enters, and he says the D stands for my wiener. And then they break into song. And I, at first, enjoyed the vibe of the song, and I thought that the singing was good. The dynamic between them felt a little off, especially because it's very well established that Dumbledore is gay and is very much played like a gay man in these plays. So this felt a little weird. And then, unfortunately, what you learn over the course of the song is that the reason Dumbledore is kind of sweetening up to Umbridge is because he's convinced that Umbridge is actually a man. He even goes as far as to call Umbridge Mr. Umbridge, and then all Umbridge does is shrug. I don't know. I felt a little uneasy at the beginning of the song, and then as it went, I only felt worse.
Yeah. So an interesting thing, Star Kids, a group of them, 3 of them actually, created this group called the Tin Can Brothers, and it was Joey Richter, Brian Rosenthal, and Corey Lubowich. And so they've made their own musicals and creations outside of Star Kid, and they did this musical called Spies Are Forever. And I was actually in that musical, and I played Barb, a scientist character, and their main character, Kurt, is gay, but like the characters don't know that he's gay, just the audience like knows. And my character is like in love with Kurt, but not knowing that Kurt is gay. But it's played in such a way that isn't tricky, or it's like innocent in a way. And so it doesn't feel like it's manipulative in any way. And I think that's the difference between like Spies and that relationship and this relationship with Umbridge and Dumbledore, is that it feels like from both sides that it's very like weirdly manipulative.
Yeah.
And so that is what makes it like super uncomfortable, because it's like, yeah, it's supposed to be this misunderstanding, but because it's not done in like an innocent way, or it's never established, or it's like, it just feels weird and you feel bad about it, you know?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you've hit the nail on the head there, that there is a manipulation element to it, and that just doesn't feel good, and it feels like he has bad intentions, and then consent in there. There's just a lot of uncomfortable elements that all contribute to it. And we've talked about this in the last episode, and I know at least Nick from Star Kid has apologized, so I think we can move on. We've discussed what we've discussed here, but the song didn't feel great.
Yeah, and I don't think that they sing that song anymore. I don't think so, but
I wouldn't be surprised,
yeah.
The kids are going to go to the Shrieking Shack, and it turns into a dare situation with Hermione and Cho, where Hermione says that she's going to go in to try to stand up to Cho, who's bullying her a little bit. Mm-hmm. And when Ron asks her why she's going to do it, Hermione says, maybe it'll prove someone in the school cares if I live or die. And then Ron says, I wouldn't count on it, which is really sad.
It really is. I think that's really specifically supposed to be that sort of like troll moment that pushes Hermione like into the bathroom, like that whole kind of vibe. But obviously they had to do it in this sort of world that they've already set up. And it's interesting because this musical has a lot of like the third book movie elements in it, like with the Time Turner and Lupin, and they're really like harping in on the third one, because like the first one is a lot of the fourth, isn't it? It has a lot of like...
Yeah, the first one is like every book that isn't 3 and 5.
Right.
So then in this one they went, aha!
Okay.
We've got 2 books of content we did not touch on. Let's do those 2 for the sequel.
Right. And they also put in like some of the first book too, because it's like them meeting for the first time and all of those kind of like elements. You feel bad. Hermione.
So bad.
And Bonnie is just like such a great Hermione, and she plays her just like so earnestly that you just feel so bad for her.
She does a good job of making you feel bad, which is a credit to her acting.
And it's ridiculous because like a lot of people love Hermione. Like Hermione is a lot of people's favorite characters. So it like Star Kid like took a risk, like really dunking on Hermione like a lot, you know?
Yeah, for sure. So Harry then goes to save Hermione and brings Ron. And when they're looking for her in the shack, they start trying to call out for Hermione, and they're saying all these incorrect pronunciations of her name, which I enjoyed because it was more than just what had been happening up to this point, which is everyone calling her Herman, which I didn't like because it's a dude's name, and I'm afraid that it is going to them calling her a dude's name because they think she's ugly, etc. But when they're doing things like calling her Hermanana or Hermano or all these other things that are just obnoxious, like hermononucleosis, all of these things that are over-the-top mispronunciations. I thought that was funny.
I love that.
So that was good.
I love those types of jokes.
So then the werewolf Lupin enters the scene, and the squad screams, it's a vampire!
It's like so obviously a werewolf.
Painfully obviously a werewolf.
Yeah.
So Harry then goes to get his wand out of his bag, and Crookshanks is in there again, which is great. Throws it, the glass shatters again. Love it. So they run away into the Forbidden Forest, and Ron has such a great line where he goes, we're going from the scariest place in the world to the scariest place in the world.
Yep. Yeah.
So then when they're there, you have Harry telling Hermione not to try to pretend to be someone that she's not. And then she goes, yeah, but look at you, you're so cool. And he goes, yes, but in the Muggle world, I'm something called a douchebag.
I mean, honestly, he's more of a douchebag in the wizarding world, I think. But
yeah, I like that what they've done for the character here of Harry is that he is not afraid to address that they're very much playing up that Harry's a jerk, and I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, it's great.
And he even gets into specifics where he says, I bust out my guitar when people just want to hang out, which is the worst thing, and I hated when people did that in college so much. It's one of those tropes that is painfully so accurate that we all knew that person in college who would bust out a guitar at parties, and no one ever wants that
and
ever.
Darren was that person. He was that person.
I'm not surprised. And then he goes on and he says, I make weird covers of Disney songs. I'm assuming like Darren Chris did that because everybody laughed. And I was like, that must have been a Darren Chris thing.
No, it was like a known thing. He made like specific Disney covers on his guitar, like acoustic Disney covers, and put them on YouTube, and people watched them, and it was like a thing. So he was like making fun of that.
Nice. Good to be able to laugh at yourself.
Oh yeah.
But I also hope that he is not a douchebag anymore.
Darren is the most lovable person ever. He is.
You love to hear it.
The fame that he has gotten has not changed him at all. He is the same lovable person as he always was.
That's very good. Ron also admits that he is a bit of a douchebag, so I appreciate him coming to grips with that as well.
Yeah.
The werewolf is back, and this is the first time you really get to see the werewolf clearly, and the props are really solid, much like the dragon from the first one. The prop department really on top of their game.
Yeah, I think that again was like Nick Lang and some other people, because he like created specific puppets.
Okay.
Puppets was specifically his thing. And before, I don't know if it was right before this musical, but they did a Lord of the Rings musical that is not on the internet.
Ooh.
But they made like this Gollum puppet that was so intricate and so like specific. And then if you watch Starship, which is another one of the Starkin musicals, the puppets in that are unreal. It's like they took this and took it to the next level. It's like Avenue Q level like puppets. Like it's a part of the entire production, and like the main character is a puppet, and he's a puppet the whole time.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, the work they did was really solid. I was very impressed by the werewolf here. So he is back, and then Ferenz comes to save them, and it's very unicorn interpretation. White pants, long flowing blonde hair, a little unicorn tail sticking out of the seat of the pants. I loved it.
Oh yeah, the little like, because Jim is just so freaking tall and massive, and that he has this like tiny little unicorn butt is just so funny.
Very clearly a stuffed animal they cut in half, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
And I also love that at one point Ron sneaks up behind Ferenz and pets his back, and Ferenz just makes this pure euphoric face of satisfaction.
Yeah,
That's really good. So then Ferenz says that centaurs, and they always pronounce it centaurs, which is ridiculous, says that they are a dying breed because there's no females left and there's no humans strong enough to survive coitus. I felt like this was a strange out of left field comment to make, but then it comes into play later in Act 2, and we'll get to that later.
Yes.
So that scene ends and the Quidditch match begins. And you see Lupin wearing only his underwear, covered in blood splatters, surrounded by a slaughtered doe. And I thought this was fantastic.
This is what I mean about like the cringe factor of Lupin is just so astronomical in this moment because he is just in his underwear. Just completely covered in blood. And that's just so funny because of course he would do that. Like after he changes, like if you actually think about it, you're like, yeah, he would end up like that at some point. Oh God, it's so cringy. It's
wonderful.
So funny. And then again, he's like, who looks stupid now? You do.
So Rita Skeeter is there trying to interview him about it. Lupin tries to deny it, does not work at all. And then we get to a scene where Dumbledore is telling Snape about hooking up with Umbridge and then being surprised that Umbridge was actually a woman. And then he disapparated out of there once he realized this. Again, didn't feel great about it.
Nope.
Snape says that Dumbledore needs to address it. It can't be like when he made out with Grubbly Plank and then she got all clingy, which I think is a fun little pairing I did not anticipate. Fun little ship there. But then Dumbledore says it'll blow over, just like that time I didn't expel Tom Riddle. Everything was fine.
Oh, man. Dumbledore. You need to come up with other ways to do things.
Gotta be direct, but that's Dumbledore. He's never direct.
He honestly isn't, so that is canon.
It really is. So then there's the beginning of the bit, which is that Umbridge is a clingy text type person, which I can totally understand. That was such a 2009, 2010 thing of texting someone multiple times because it was a thing where sometimes text messages wouldn't go through. So if someone didn't reply, there's always the worry of like, did my message not actually go through? There was something that I never had a BlackBerry, but Snape, I think, says it's a BBM from Umbridge. Is that a BlackBerry message? This felt very dated for me. I didn't have a phone until I was in 8th grade.
I did have a BlackBerry, but I do not remember if it was called something specific.
Okay.
I don't know. I really don't know if that's like a... I don't know.
All the BlackBerry stands out there are going to send me hate mail and be like, obviously BBM is a superior SMS service. It was just bought out by WhatsApp, you know. So Umbridge enters, all lovey-dovey towards Dumbledore. Dumbledore says that he doesn't love her. Umbridge starts to cry, calls herself a chubby little fuck, not a fan of this. But then Umbridge vows for vengeance, and this sets up Umbridge becoming a villain, which at least makes a little more sense because she had not really been a villain up until this point, and I was interested to see how they made her so. So she's trying to come after Dumbledore and for his job. That's what's setting her up.
Right, and it's kind of like, you know, like an Incredible Hulk type thing where it's like, oh, like Umbridge smash.
So then Lucius enters and has a scene with Snape. And Lucius has brought a bunch of replacement Quidditch players, and they're all Death Eaters that time traveled back with him. So Draco then enters with a potty drawing for Lucius, like this very proud drawing of, look, I used the potty properly. Lucius, this whole scene is incredibly prance heavy, dance heavy, spin heavy, toe tap heavy. I am so here for it. Anytime we're talking about the over theatrics of the Slytherin characters especially, I absolutely adore it.
Lucius, when he is just being so overly dramatic and dancing, especially in front of Draco, it's specifically to show him, like, this is how you're supposed to be, son. This is how you're supposed to dance. Like, dance with me. And then Draco just can't do it because he tries so hard, but then he falls.
So then the scene ends with Draco trying to start a song again and then it immediately fading to black, which was a bit I loved from the first place. So I'm glad it made its way into the sequel as well.
Oh, Pass Mike, I'm glad you love that. You know what I love? Doing this for a living. And if we're going to keep that going, we got to take a little bit of a break for Wingardium Adridosa. Today's episode of Potterless is brought to you by Shaker and Spoon. Let's say hypothetically that you are Harry Potter and you are unable to go to Hogsmeade and drink with all of your friends, so you're going to have your own drinks delivered directly to you on your own. How are you going to do this? You're going to do it with Shaker and Spoon. Shaker and Spoon sends you a box of all of the ingredients and the instructions to make 4 servings of 3 different drinks, all using the same liquor. All you need to do is buy the booze, they provide everything else, and you can learn how to make some really fancy and delicious cocktails through them. I've done boxes with them for a lot of different liquors. I've used these recipes in my future life for looking fancy, whether it is at a party or recently, I made margaritas that I learned how to make from an old Shaker and Spoon box for my parents now that I'm hanging out with Barb and Joel for the month. And let me tell you, it went over really well and they thought I was a very fancy boy. Look at me, big old 28-year-old boy who can make cocktails. Woo, thanks Shaker and Spoon. So if you want to be a fancy person like I am, you can go to shakerandspoon.com/wizardon and you will get $20 off your first box. The boxes run between $40 and $50, so that's about 50% off, which is pretty sweet. So go to shakerandspoon.com/wizardon, get $20 off your first box and start making some drinks, because who needs butterbeer anyway today? Today's episode of Potterless is also brought to you by Tap for a Cause. Now, the world is in a rough state right now, and there are a lot of charitable organizations that are doing a lot of good. And if you're anything like me, you just want to help all of these organizations, you want to help in any way that you can, and you want to find ways to help out that are simple and quick. Well, Tap for a Cause is the simplest and quickest way to raise money for charity. It's a Google Chrome extension. You get it by going to tabforacause.org/Potterless. You add it, it takes just a couple of seconds to do so, and then every time you open a tab on your Google Chrome browser, you can donate hearts, which raises money for charity. Recently, they just had a big push to raise thousands of dollars for the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. They've been doing some really great challenges recently to raise money for COVID-related causes or Black Lives Matter-related causes. They've been doing some great work, and at the time of recording, they've raised over $912,000 for charity. So you can help out and join the group of people raising money for charity in the easiest way possible if you go to tabforacause, TABFORACAUSE.org/Potterless and install it to your Google Chrome browser today. Then we have the actual Quidditch scene itself. The song I thought was actually really fun. The music is great. The choreography really solid when they are about to play Quidditch, like the head-to-head hype up before the match begins. I thought it was a very fun song. Then the Quidditch itself begins, and I just feel like playing sports never really works in a play, so I was not super keen onto this.
I mean, especially when you can't fly.
Right,
it's like,
yeah.
what are you going to do?
They're just like walking with brooms either next to their legs or in between their legs.
They try.
They don't even throw the quaffle that much. They kind of just place it through the ring. It was not my favorite moment, for sure.
I mean, it's like, what else can you do, though?
Right.
It's like in a production like this to keep it just in some way orderly. If you were like throwing a ball all around,
Right.
I feel like it would just be chaos. So.
I mean, I guess you could also just not write Quidditch to be in the plot. Is the real solution is just don't write it in.
I feel like they felt like they had to do it though, because
Yeah.
it's such a huge part of like the books and of the movies,
The
you
movies,
know?
for
Like even
sure.
in the movies they did it. So it's like they had to at least try something, make an attempt. Even if it was bad, that's kind of like the joke, is like, look how ridiculous like this sport is. Like
Yeah.
what?
Makes sense. You can't just ignore it. So then we have a scene of Lucius intercepting a package from Hedwig for Harry. And it's very clearly a broom just by the shape of the package. But then Hermione comes in and Lucius is trying to stand up to her and not give over the package. She does her trademark jelly legs curse. He falls over and then she runs off with the package. What I noticed at this point is that it carried over from the Quidditch song, but someone is clapping to go along in the background. I don't know if this is from the orchestra or whatever, but it goes on, like clapping to the beat, goes on for like 5 minutes.
I did not notice that. Oh man.
It just keeps going, and then eventually later on they go back in and finish the song, I guess. But you really could have stopped clapping because there's like just
Maybe
dialogue.
that was like an audience thing. I don't know.
Someone was clapping, and bless their soul, they kept it up. But it was awkward.
One thing that I wish that Star Kid would have done, like with that sort of broomstick, joke is I wish they would have brought back the puppy joke like that they did. Like, oh, it's a puppy. When it was like obviously not a puppy. It was obviously a broomstick because it's again like he obviously has a broomstick, but it's like when she's like, what is that? He could have been like, it's a puppy.
Would have been good. So Hermione then comes in and delivers the fireball to Harry at halftime. And when Harry gets the fireball, all of the other wizards are very excited, and they are talking about the firebolt, and they say, quote, even wizard God himself can't follow.
So that is, again, another like Star Kid joke that they use in almost every musical. They reference some sort of god, like they have a duck god, they have like dead god. Yes, they go there.
It's good.
Of course, in the Harry Potter universe, they have to have wizard god.
Makes sense. Then something I thought really funny, and this could just be because I played a lot of sports growing up, is that Lupin just goes team cheer on 3, and then they say 1, 2, 3, and then they all say something different. Which I thought is so good. I love 1, 2, 3 jokes. When I did improv in Seattle, I did a sports themed improv show called Comedy Sports, which was like Who's the Line, but if the points mattered. There was a scoreboard, there was a referee. It was very fun. I loved doing it. And when I was the team captain, you get to decide what your say something on the count of 3 is. And what I would always do for my teams would be I would put our hands in the middle and I'd say, okay, let's say 4 on 3 so that you go 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh my God.
And that was always my favorite joke. So later in life, when I am a coach of my son, daughter, whoever's basketball team, it's going to take every fiber in my being not to tell the team to say, okay, guys, let's say 4 on the count of 3. But if you're on an intramural sports team, everybody, you should use that.
No, when I was in high school, my mascot was the Wildcat. So, and when I was in high school,
High School Musical came out.
High School Musical came out, so all of us would always just do the what team? Wildcats! What team? Wildcats! Wildcats! Get your head in the game! We would I was on like the tennis team. I was on like varsity tennis, and we would always do that like every single time because it was just like such a huge thing. We were also the same colors. It was very weird. It was like the exact same as High School Musical. And High School Musical is very featured in the Harry Potter universe. So it makes me very happy.
It makes me very happy as well. I'm a huge High School Musical fan, and I am very glad that it gets a lot of love here. There is something later on in Act 2 that they get incredibly incorrect about High School Musical, but we'll save that for a future episode. Ho, cliffhanger to get everyone to listen. So Ron, holding his broom, then hugs Hermione, and then she leaves. There's a broom erection joke, which, sure, I guess. And then we have Harry versus Draco in the match itself going for the snitch. It turns into slow motion, which is very funny. This is, I think, a better landing joke of look how bad it is, of the person who is the snitch, like dressed in all black, holding it, the slow-mo, people yelling in slow-mo. I thought this was very funny.
Well, this like specific moment, you can see that this set is supposed to look like the cover of the first Harry Potter book.
Definitely.
And then like this moment when Harry like slow motion catches the snitch, it's like trying to recreate the cover.
Right. It's the exact same thing. That's so funny.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay, I now understand why they paused for so long when he caught it.
Right. Yeah. It was like that.
Because when he caught it, I thought, oh, he caught it. And then part of me thought, okay, he's held it for a couple seconds. I feel like there's a joke going over my head. And that was it. Thank you. Now I feel smart again.
Yes, there you go.
So Lucius then enters, and what I love carries over from the first play is that he goes, oh, who knew that the counter curse was just Angelify? Which is so good. Oh, my goodness. So Draco enters, and he says that he had a good time and he had fun, and he thought he would have caught the snitch if Yaxley didn't get in the way. And Lucius is absolutely furious. And to step the theatrics up even further, sticks both of his arms out horizontally, and then 2 Death Eaters grab him by the wrists and pick him up so he like flies over to Draco. And the whole time he's saying, how dare you? Oh, it was so good. Gosh, it's so funny.
Perfect. It's perfect. Lucius and Tyler Brunsman is just his theatrical, lovely portrayal. Because if you think about it, like Lucius in the movies is also like super dramatic. and kind of ridiculous at times. So him just like amplifying that to 100 is the best.
Yes, poking fun at Jason Isaacs' portrayal of him is so great because I like that if you watch the movies, he just gets more theatrical as the movies go.
Oh my gosh.
He becomes more pompous and his hair gets more fabulous. So they really just continue to level it up as the movies go on. So I like that this play poked fun at that because it's one of my favorite things.
Oh yeah, especially in like, I don't like that second movie where he has that moment where it's like him and Harry are like talking to each other in Dumbledore's office and then with the Dobby thing and he's like, ah! and he's like, Avada, and you're like, is he gonna kill him? Like what is happening?
It's wild. And then in the fourth movie, he's got the cane and he like smacks Harry with his cane.
Yes.
They like stuff that was not in the book at all, but I don't know. You do you, Jason Isaacs.
Well, and now we have another beautiful portrayal of Lucius.
Beautiful. So Lucius then crumples Draco's drawing and says, "You're not my son." And I legitimately felt bad for Draco.
That's what I mean.
I know it's supposed to be funny, but I felt actually sad.
Yes. I feel bad and sad for so many characters in this musical.
So dark.
I'm just like, oh no, Hermione.
So
Draco.
speaking of Hermione, the next scene is her with Ron and Harry. She's about to go home for Christmas, and she gives a gift to Ron and Harry, and they open it up, and they think it's a book, so they're super upset, and they toss it aside. But then it's revealed that it's a scrapbook with all of their memories from their first semester together at Hogwarts, which is really sweet.
Yeah, it's cute, man. It's such like a classic kid present too.
It's so great. It's so great. So one of these snippets is a clip from the Daily Prophet, and it's Sirius Black saying that he wants to drug and kill Harry Potter, which seems intense, but becomes a joke later on. So then Snape enters yelling at the top of his lungs, "Sirius Black, Sirius Black." And then he runs over to people playing wizard chess and he goes, "Oh, checkmate, Sirius Black."
So that moment, Joe actually improvised. The checkmate
good.
moment.
That makes me so happy because I thought it was so funny.
Oh, good. He'll like that. He'll love
that was
that.
so good. And I've talked about this in the podcast. I've really gotten into chess lately over the course of quarantine because it's a very good remote game that you can play with your friends. Because if you use a chess app or chess.com, you can take a turn and then it's somebody else's turn and then you don't have to actively be playing it because sometimes it's hard to organize and let's play an online Catan or let's play Jackbox or something.
Right.
But me and my buddy Johnny just constantly have back and forth chess matches going on.
Wow.
So I appreciate that there was a little chess joke in there for the nerd that I am.
Just for you.
They wrote it just for me 10 years ago.
Yep. Joe's that good.
One day there will be a boy who didn't read the Harry Potter books as a kid. He'll start a podcast. Everyone will tell him to watch a Harry Potter musical. He'll watch the first one. He'll like Act 1. He'll be kind of mean in Act 2. People won't respond positively to the episodes about Act 2, but hopefully they are positive about the ones about the sequel because Tessa and him are a little bit nicer and handle the Umbridge situation great. And I'm assuming he wrote this all on his XANGA page?
Oh my gosh, XANGA. I totally had a XANGA.
Did you? What was it about? I was never in the XANGA. I was one of the first people to have MySpace, which was very fun, but I did never have XANGA. What was your XANGA page about?
Oh my gosh, I feel like my XANGA page was just me like writing like inspirational dance quotes, like dance like no one's watching, like ridiculous, like over the top.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like not cute. Like absurd. And then I remember MySpace specifically. So there was this kid in my school in Pennsylvania. He like got famous on MySpace because he wrote this like MySpace parody to "My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard." And it was like, "My MySpace brings all the boys to the page." And he like wrote that. So he became like a mini celebrity in like our high school. And we're like, oh my God, he's so cool.
MySpace, wild. I remember I used to show up in a lot of people's top 8s on MySpace because the original way it was coded was so that Tom would always be your number one friend.
Right.
They had it sorted by date in which you created your MySpace page. And my buddy Josh was really early on to MySpace. And one day he was like, "You got to have a MySpace page." So then we made one. So then I was in a lot of people's top 8s just because my account was old. But then when you got to customize your top 8, I got removed from a lot of people's top 8. And let me tell you, not great for the 7th grade self-esteem.
Oh. Topping was such a big thing. And also just like the coding. I remember I used to do all this coding to make it look like so cool.
We all knew HTML.
Yeah, like what was that?
We had songs, we had moving backgrounds, we had those quizzes where you answered questions about yourself. So many things going on, so much creativity. And I remember that was such a big reason why I didn't join Facebook until it got to the point where no one was using MySpace anymore. Because I thought, why would I do it? You can't customize anything. And I put so much work into this HTML on my MySpace page.
Exactly.
Gosh.
Exactly.
Top 8, what a terrible fucking feature. What an awful, awful feature for, at least for my age, a social media platform used mostly by middle schoolers and high schoolers.
Yeah.
Just letting people know publicly, these are the people that I like the most. It's awful.
Oh my gosh, it was the worst. And your friends would get like mad. And if you like got in a fight with a friend, you would like remove them from your top 8. It would be just like this whole thing. Yeah.
I remember because first you could customize the order of your top 8 and then you could expand it to where you could have a top 16 or a top 24. But then it would get into this weird thing where if you were in someone's top 24, it didn't feel good because 24 is so big. Like, yeah, of course I was in Johnny Law's top 24. Like, that's not a big deal. But then it would get into a thing where the order of the top 8 mattered. So I remember what I ended up doing because I didn't want to make people upset. I would just become MySpace friends with people that would make pages about like things that didn't exist. So I remember one of my MySpace friends was like fictional cereal mascots and stuff. And I just made my entire top 8 fake people because I didn't want to make my friends upset.
That was brilliant. Oh my gosh, I wish I did that. I would have had a lot easier time.
I mean, it was only because I got left out of people's top 8s and I felt bad about it. I was like, I've learned something that makes me feel bad. I'm going to not do it to other people. My top 8 is now Tony the Tiger, Captain Crunch, and Toucan Sam. I was also very into breakfast.
I was like, wow, I'm like starving. Now I want to have like some sort of intense breakfast. I love that.
Today's episode brought to you by Eggo Waffles.
Cookie Crisp.
Oh my shit. I do. Oh yes. I have so I was buying stuff from Target.com recently.
Target.com.
You know, the famous, mainly to specify that I was ordering a delivery online because they have the
amazing. I just loved the phrasing of that. That was brilliant.
Oh no, I've been revealed. I'm 28. I'm becoming old. On Target.com, you have to have $35 for the shipping to be free. So I was buying some stuff and the total price was like $33.50. So I needed something. So I was just Googling stuff on Target and I ordered a giant family size box of Cinnamon Toast Crunch. And I think it arrives today. I'm very excited.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited for you.
It's going to be a big development for me when I get my Target.com delivery order. So anyway, Harry Potter. Snape, after screaming Sirius Black, says that the paintings on the 3rd floor spotted Sirius Black, and then says that the dogs playing poker peed on the carpet, and the screaming man looked even more terrified. It took the entire Last Supper for him to calm down. I love these art jokes.
Yeah.
I love it so much because the paintings at Hogwarts is always such a confusing thing. So I like the joke that just every famous painting is now canonically in Hogwarts.
Well, because there's so many of them too. And it's like, even when you're reading the books, it's hard to like keep track of which one is which like entrance. And then like Sir Cadogan just comes in here and you're like, what? Like, why is he in here? So it's, I like the joke too. It was funny.
It's very solid. Good. So then Harry gets really mad and he wants to take on Sirius Black. He says, I'm going to throw everything I can at him. Lumos, Alohomora, Jelly Legs Jinx, everything. Which, very, very good. And then Hermione says, you think you're being a little too upset right now, Harry? That seems like a lot. And then he just screams, I'm in a rage, which is just a very good Book 5 Harry joke to make. We all love to see it.
It is my favorite Starkid joke of all time. Like that moment, I'm in a rage, this is the maddest I've ever been, is my favorite Starkid joke because it perfectly just depicts Harry's angsty moments and I just love it. I say it all the time.
So then you have the squad using the Marauders map to try to find Sirius. They come across the Mirror of the Erised and a song begins. And again, Darren Criss, just a really good singer, just really solid. It's just a nice sentimental song about looking for his parents. I got legitimate chills at some of the harmonies that come on later. Gosh, really solid.
Yeah, it's a great song. And I just love what they did like with the mirror, like putting the actors so it like looks like the mirror and then you can see them in it.
Yeah, it was really good.
It's great.
So then Sirius comes forward. He says, "Those are your parents, Harry." Ron tries to step to him. He goes, "Take this, you bastard. Alohomora." Does nothing, which is fantastic.
Yeah, it's because they're kids, you know? It's like, and it's so ridiculous, like looking back at them, like just trying, especially in the first book and first movie, them just trying to take on Voldemort by themselves. And like this really brings it out where it's like, they don't know anything. They don't know any magic at all. Like, what are they going to do?
I also noticed, and maybe this is just because I don't use this particular curse word a lot, but it seems like the Star Kid writers love to use the word bastard.
Yeah.
I don't know if that is seeped into things beyond the Harry Potter trilogy, but it was a lot of the use of bastard, which I've never been particularly fond of.
I feel like they just like sometimes during musicals, they'll pick a specific word and then just sort of keep using it over and over. So I feel like bastard was the one that just kind of stuck for this one.
I get it. I say basically a lot, so much so that I edited out of a lot of Potter lists.
Yeah, everyone has. Everyone has one.
I have that a lot where I'll be editing an episode of Potter. It's like, why are you saying this word so much? What are you doing? Shout out to editing. Otherwise, so many people would hate me more than they do.
Oh my gosh. It's necessary. You need it. And it's the worst because when you're like listening back to yourself, you're just like, oh God, just stop talking.
Honestly, I think it's one of the things that has helped me most in life is that when I first started doing episodes of Potterless, I said like and so much. And the fact that I edit myself, I'm so much more self-conscious of it.
Yeah.
And I've gotten to the point where I really try to stop saying it and know the power of pauses and not saying They achieve the same thing, but you sound so much smarter. So I think it's been really helpful in just the way that I talk. Because I was like a valley girl, man. I said like so much. It was bad.
I still say it a lot. It's bad. Man.
So then Hermione hits him with Jelly Legs Jinx, and Sirius immediately uses Ungelify, and Hermione goes, "Harry, he's too much for us." So funny. So then Sirius explains himself and the situation. He joins in the song, and the harmonies between him and Darren Criss, I am not exaggerating, gave me goosebumps as I watched this. It was very well done.
Yeah, Sirius Black is played by Nick Strauss, and he just is such a wonderful human. So it's just so nice to see him like in the Potter musicals because he wasn't in the first one.
No, he wasn't. No, at least he didn't look familiar.
He was in Me and My Dick, but he wasn't in the first Potter.
Got it.
Musical.
So Sirius goes on to further clarify that he did not say that he wanted to drug and kill Harry. He wanted to hug and kiss Harry and was misquoted by Rita Skeeter, which is fantastic. Sirius says he used the invisibility cloak to escape. And he goes, "Oh, we used to use it to play pranks on Snape. We also solve mysteries and shit, but the pranks."
And that is funny to think about too, because like we just see Harry, Ron, and Hermione using the invisibility cloak, but then you remember that, oh my God, this was James's. And like the Marauders were so absurd and so like mean at times. And
such
like,
bullies.
What would they have done with an invisibility cloak? Are you kidding me?
They would have gone into the girls' locker room.
Yeah, just the worst stuff.
So then Harry puts it on and he says, "Ron, am I invisible?" And Ron goes, "Who said that?" And then Harry, still wearing the cloak, turns over to Sirius and says, "I don't really think I'm in danger." And then very angrily, Sirius goes, "Who said that?" It's so good.
Yep, brilliant.
So then Snape enters and you have a bit of a Snape versus Sirius moment. Sirius also gives Snape the butt trumpet insult like Lupin gave earlier. Lots of noises, always a good time. Then Hermione says that she wishes Dumbledore was here. And of course, Dumbledore enters and he says, "I am here, Night Troll." Ugh. So Dumbledore and Umbridge enter. Umbridge then gives a kiss ultimatum of you can either kiss me or you can kiss a Dementor. Dumbledore then says that he's going to choose neither, runs over to Snape, says that it's time to test your loyalty. He disapparates, and when he disapparates, everyone goes, "Oh, magic," which I absolutely love. And now Umbridge has established herself as the headmaster. At first, they thought it was going to be Snape, but she reveals that it's actually going to be her. And that's the end of Act 1. And that's also the end of this episode of of Potterless.
Yeah. And another thing that I love that they say, he goes, that's bullshit, Snape. You can't disapparate inside of Hogwarts. And then he goes, yeah. And then like everyone goes, yeah. And he goes, yeah.
Yep. It's great. It's great.
Just, I love that joke. It's
very fun.
It. And yeah, we're at the end of Act 1.
We are. How do you feel just overall Act 1 of a Harry Potter sequel? How are you feeling?
I like Act 1 better than Act 2 because Act 2 gets a lot darker and gets a lot cringier and gets a lot again, it's just too much for me. I personally actually like the first musical better than the second musical.
Okay.
Just because it's lighter and it's more just kind of like fun. The songs are more ridiculous. It's not as like taking itself as seriously. So for me, that's just like more fun. But this, a lot of people love more. And I get why, because it's more put together. The songs are better. It's more of a production. It's less of like, oh, it's just friends getting together and like, you know, so it's like, I totally understand why people like this one. It's just that the humor is not my type of humor.
Yeah, it's definitely darker.
Yeah, but it's still great.
Yes.
And I love these musicals so much.
I really enjoyed Act 1. I agree. I think I enjoyed Act 1 more than Act 2. I think that maybe comparing this one to the previous one, I think the production quality is probably a big reason why people enjoy this one a little bit better. Yeah. It's definitely more put together. I feel like the highs are higher in this one, but the lows are lower.
Right.
I feel like I laughed harder at certain parts, but I was much more put off by the Umbridge thing than anything in the first one. Even though there are some stuff that doesn't sit well, I feel like the Umbridge stuff was just really particularly gross. So I can see why people would have differing opinions about the first and the second, but overall, like, I still do enjoy it. I think much like I talked about with Hannah in the final discussion we had about Act 2 of a Harry Potter musical, I think that it's not necessarily something I think I'm going to be finding myself rewatching, at least in its entirety, especially because it does have those gross elements. But I think what could have made it survive and what people like is you go back and you just listen to this one song, or you go back and you watch just this one part.
I mean, it's also just so long.
Yeah, it's really long. It's super long. That's why this is going to be 4 episodes to discuss one play, which I guess makes sense, but you don't think of a YouTube thing. It's hard to disassociate this as a YouTube video when it's a 3-hour production.
Right. They're still really the only theater company that's done this, that's put these like original full-length musicals like online. It was groundbreaking at the time, and it still is today. It's actually amazing that they do that and still do that.
Yeah, and even though it is long, I don't think that it necessarily drags. I think this one, the sequel, has a really good job of keeping up the momentum. It is just a lot. There's a lot of scenes. I don't think that it draws on, but it is, you have to dedicate yourself to watching it. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, I definitely just like listen to the soundtrack more. Like more than just rewatching the entire thing just because it's so long. But there are specific moments that I like that I'll watch, because a lot of the Star Kid fans have created like compilations or like
you love to see
of character, you know, their favorite characters, their favorite moments. So it's like, I love watching that kind of stuff anyway. So it's like, oh yeah, I'll watch this. And then I love listening to the music, and it's really cool when Star Kid gets together for their performances. A lot of times they'll just sort of like, you know, go through the greatest hits of all their songs, and they'll do the best songs and the best moments, and that's all you want to see. So it's great.
That's very good. Yeah, I'm just going to quick bookmark Draco flopping around on the ground compilation. Okay,
yes.
Save that
and
for
you
later.
You must watch Potion Master's Corner. Like, I'm telling you have to.
For sure. That'll probably end up being episodes of Potterless. It sounds so funny.
It's so great.
I'm very excited.
Fun. And it's also funny because Joe like interviews Darren, and this was like way before like, you know, Darren like blew up and was on Glee and then had this whole entire career and now has an Emmy, and Joe like literally asks him, it's like, so have you thought about acting? It's just brilliant. So I would
so good.
Very much, you should check that out.
I definitely will. Well, Tessa, thank you so much for joining on. If people want to find you doing stuff, where can they do so?
Oh, yes. Well, you can find me on the internets, on the YouTubes. I make Harry Potter videos at youtube.com/Tessa Netting. I also post a lot of Potter stuff on Instagram at Tessa Netting, and I have a nerdy podcast with my best friend, Brizzy Voices, called Fantastic Geeks, where it's very Potter related. We do a lot of sorting and trailer breakdowns and fun games and stuff. And I also play Hazel on the Disney Channel TV show Bunked. So you might recognize me from there as well. I'm the mean one with pigtails.
So I feel like that's a good Twitter bio, the mean one with pigtails.
I am. It's so fun to play a villain, though. It's so fun. But these little kids like come up to me and they think that I'm like evil, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to burn your camp down.
I do get it. When I met the people that portrayed bad guys in Harry Potter at LeakyCons, like when I met Scarlet Byrne, who plays Pansy, I was put off by how nice she was.
Right.
And then I remembered, oh, right. Just because she played Pansy Parkinson doesn't mean that she's a mean person.
Well, you forget sometimes because you just associate their face. And it's especially little kids, so I get it. I totally get it. It's just funny.
It's super fun. No, playing a villain is great. I've done it once for an audio drama thing, and it was very fun. It was very fun, especially because in it I started as like, you think I'm a good guy, and the reveal is that I'm evil. Oh, it's so fun.
Yes.
It's so satisfying.
Oh, I love a good evil reveal. The best.
Well, Tessa, thank you so much for joining. Listeners, thank you so much for listening. And until next time, as they say in the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, before they remember that the counter curse is ungelify, wizard on!
Hey, did you know the Potterless merch store has been restocked? Did you know that Horse and Spirits and Join the Party all have new items up in their merch stores? Well, now you do. If you go to multitude.production/merch, you can check out all of the Multitude merch. The Potterless digital bundles are there. There are Horse wallpapers and ringtones. JTP has a bunch of Dungeons and Dragons stuff. Spirits has a coloring book and pins. So many wonderful things, all at multitude.production/merch. Potterless is created by Mike Schubert. It is hosted by Mike Schubert. It is edited by Mike Schubert. It is produced by Mike Schubert, as well as Vicky Garcia, Aaron Johnson, Klaus Lopu, Marchismo, Samantha Rose, Swanson, Filio, Rosemary, Daj, Marie, Lisa C. Keen, Romina Rivadeneira, Audra Eleanor Curlin, Nikita Power, Ali Madsen, Amelia Krause, Sarah Nink, Ben Silver, Rachel Guthrie, Zachary Pulido, Orca Grower, Vivian the Owl, Haley Hastings Moser, Alex Consilver, John Kotker, Noel Basile, Liz Bigelow, Brandon Pickens, Claire Spencer, Rory Collier, Veronica Bartova, Lotta Bartova, Noah, Tracy Toya, Colleen, Jennifer Mark, Lufride, J. Svensson, Summer Rathel, Justin Montero, Jacob Parrish, Maya Gray, Mark Body, Polly Burridge, Zena Rosnowski, Harlan Haskins, Noelia, Addie, Nikki Harris, Kine, Amanda Alfred, Alicia McLaren, Kafir Shaltiel, Sarah Shetter, Marta Morrison, Eileen Gazesh, Keegan Curran, Mr. Folk, Maya, Floor Sake, Siri Scaros for Georgia Davis, Skylar Lilly, Edel Ryan, Professor Threat, Ellie Hoskov-Chova, Elizabeth Christofferson, Michael David Yordi, Kelly Otilio, Kerry Crumpler, Connie Bienkowski, Jen Went, Nedry OS, Will Huser, Samantha Lentz, Aurora Fruhoff, Marco Cepeda, Courtney Marie Grieger, Ashton Gabrielson, Brittany Gutierrez, Phelan the Meadows family, Ginny from the Block, McKenna Tweedy, Heather Langeal, Brad Harding, Brianna Kusumano, Kevin Stewart, Lori McDonald, Chrissy Tew, Charles Fiven, Ashley Enstrom, Peter McGrath, Sophie Duda, Jen and Rose Dowd, Callahan and Darius, Leah Reed, Melissa Robb, Bella Barlack, Melanie Demi, Elizabeth Yu, Britt McLean, Becca Spry, Reese Dignan, Adam Graham, Joseph Torp, Lily's Mom, T-Run Money, Madison Kyle, Don't Call Me Ninfedora, GK Have It Your Way, Sabrina Balsiker, Sophia Loves Pigs, Farzan Jarabat, Melanie DeGraef, David Douglas, Matt Barger, Okamahime, Yimki Bony Pony, Jacob Rossitano, Kelsey Gillespie, Taka Blowfish, Rike Mango Jensen, Taylor Payne, Rachel Mobbs, Megan Moon, Alicia Chapman, Riley Kiddis, Colleen Waters, Laurel Happy, Rossanne Batamana, Erica Butler, Miranda Hurley, Landon Schwausch, Kendra Hertz, Natanya Page, Yogan Shanley, Darcy Alexandra Harrison, Richard Johnson, Sandra Rose, Craig McRoberts, Andron Kaufman, K.A. Robb, Steve Trelaw, Leor Nachum, Angela Hill, Julia Buzak, Demi Lynn, Kelsey Wellis, Michael Beck, Callista Delano, She Who Doesn't Have to Be Named, Elle Kringle, Lovekesh Longer, Jennifer Terzian, Crystal Pollard, Henrique Wolf, Jeremy Elmore, Delkis, Katrina Smith, Jerica Law, Michelle Spurgeon, Casey Canales, Megan Stempin, Let's Hit 1,000 Patrons, Serenity Allen, Jax G, Sophia Lyon, Sat, Matthew Babbitt, Dane Nemcher, Rochelle Unatmaz, Kirsty, Robin Garcia, Chick Parr, Mermaid and her Daddykins, Aaron Uggs, Not My Daughter, You Biatch, Ilaria Vicentin, Liam Simmons, Lori, Gregory Hughes, Krista Lee, Holly Moran, Steamed Nuggets, and Can't I Potter? Web design by Kelly Schubert, and the music is by Bettina Campamanes. If you want to find us on social media, you can at facebook.com/Potterless, twitter.com/PotterlessPod, instagram.com/PotterlessPodcast, and reddit.com/r/Potterless. For any and all information about the show, as well as transcripts, you can go to PotterlessPodcast.com for bonus content. You can go to patreon.com/Potterless, and for merch, you can go to PotterlessPodcast.com/merch. If you want to tell someone about the show, whether you reach out directly or you leave a rating and review online, those both really do help, and I would appreciate them. Thanks so much for listening, and until next time, as they say in the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, Wizard on!